Hello everyone, how are you? Today I've decided I'm going to move away from just playing video games and, talking about general things to talk about the new PS4 Pro, the specs, and what it means for everybody if you decide to go that direction. Along with that, I'm going to talk about the new PS4 update that came out today and the HDR lighting and effects it brings to the platform, along with the limitations of HDMI and a couple other things that actually makes a difference when you're viewing it on a TV. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the definition for HDR, which is high dynamic range. It's used in photography and video games, film and movies to mimic the range of luminance in the human eye, meaning bright areas are very bright, shadows are darker and dimmer, and when you put it together, it creates an image that you would see through your eye. Meaning that includes that overbright bloom effect that you get when you walk outside as your pupils are, your iris is decreasing in size to let less light in, and that darkening you get where your iris is increasing in size or dilating to allow more light in. HDR itself is really nothing new. You can generally open up a phone camera now on any modern cell phone and select the HDR setting from the options. And what that's going to do is it's going to take multiple samples of lighting through an array in the picture and combine it so that you get this gradient overall that gives you kind of like a splash of color all over. And generally, this is nothing new. Nice high-quality DSLRs have been doing it for a while. Most filmmakers use it to add character to their scenes. And it's been used in video games for quite some years now. Specifically, Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Lost Coast, which was actually a tech demo created to showcase HDR and other types of technology that Valve has implemented within the Source engine. The HDR within Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Lost Coast, as you can see in the video, is actually shown to have that iris effect, where as you walk into the dark area, the light area seems to bloom and kind of like overgrow and make it hard to see outside. And then as you exit the dark area, it gets very bright and then kind of regulates to control that, to look like you're controlling the iris there. HDR as a whole really doesn't add anything graphically besides lighting. It doesn't increase graphical fidelity to any one person. It's on a person-by-person basis. It doesn't increase texture, shadow, or display resolution in any way. It's not going to make anything look sharper or clearer. It's just simply a lighting method that's going to allow for, I don't want to say better lighting, but different lighting. The next topic I want to broach is this whole PS4 Pro, Xbox Scorpio, PC debacle that's going on. The PS4 Pro, and this is coming from Sony themselves, is basically meant to compete directly with a computer. Now, if you watched my previous video where I was talking about Fallout 4 and the mods and not having people pay a lot for a computer, you'll understand where I'm coming from in this. The PS4 Pro is supposed to be a direct competitor, not to the Xbox Scorpio or the Xbox One S, but to the PC, specifically a gaming PC. Sony doesn't want to see their market share go to the computer platform. And the reason being is that if they have people who are locked down to the PS4, that they're going to be able to sell them more DLC, not have to worry about open sourcing the console like a PC is, and they can keep people captured with their exclusives and everything like that. That being said, the PS4 Pro does not hold a candle or anything to a gaming PC. The PS4 Pro is underpowered at best. It's a better upgrade to the PS4, but saying that it'll do native 4K or upscale to 4K is a misjustice. I have a very powerful computer. It's not the highest end. I don't have an X series Intel processor. I don't have crazy Titans or anything, but I have a 6700K and two 980s in SLI. I can't play most games at 4K 60 FPS. Half-Life 2 I can. Most of the Source games I can, but that's because they're overall pretty well optimized and not really the most intensive. Dead Rising here, which just came out on Steam today, I can play at 4K. I'm getting over 200 frames per second usually, but this is also an Xbox era game, or an Xbox 360. My bad. The next thing I'm going to bring up here is HDMI. Now, I'm not sure about the HDMI on the PS4 Pro, but I know for a fact that the HDMI output port on the PS4, the original PS4, is HDMI 1.4a, allowing for up to 4K at 24 frames per second, which is what's seen as that, and I hate to say this, but cinematic frame rate. That's what most movies are filmed at. That's what most Blu-rays are going to play back at, except for things like The Hobbit and so on and so forth. To get proper HDMI output at 60 frames per second at 4K with HDR enabled, the PS4 Pro will have to have HDMI 2.0, which isn't very widely adopted yet. You're not going to see a lot of TVs with HDMI 2.0, except for the higher-end 4K TVs that support up to like 120 hertz and things of that nature. I know for a fact that a lot of monitors don't have HDMI 2.0 because they prefer to use DisplayPort in its place due to licensure and everything like that, cost associated with it. So to say that the PS4, the original PS4, is going to be able to support the HDR is going to be kind of a lapse on itself, seeing as it's going to be very limited, as the HDMI 1.4 doesn't support the full color gamut that's allowed via HDMI. It's going to support the crushed blacks and everything like that that you see with a lot of gaming consoles. Now, I can understand where people come from when they say that they're going to upgrade to the PS4 Pro, or if they don't have a PS4, that they're just going to buy the PS4 Pro, seeing as it's the same price as the PS4 at launch. The original PS4 is going to drop down in price. They're going to discontinue, if they haven't already discontinued, the fat PS4, I guess you could call it, and continue to pump out the Slim. But there are already reports that the Slim is running very hot and very loud, and is pretty much the same problem that the PS4 has currently. I used to remember that I'd have my PS4 in my room, and it would actually pump so much heat into the room that it became unbearable, and I wouldn't want to play it anymore because it would make my room so uncomfortably warm. But I could also see someone wanting to dole out, $400 for a PlayStation that could supposedly play 4K games. Granted, it won't play 4K Blu-ray, and I could see the cost associated behind that and why Sony would want to go away with that, because they don't want the same debacle that happened with the PS3, costing $600-700 at launch because it had a top-of-the-line Blu-ray player, it had the cell broadband processor, so on and so forth. But honestly, I don't think 4K Blu-ray is going to be that big of a problem to most consumers. I do know that there are some audio-visual people out there that would prefer to have a 4K Blu-ray player, sorry. But if you're looking for something like that, you could just go buy a Blu-ray player. But it's nice to have it in the console itself so that you can have it as a multimedia hub in your living room. The biggest problem I can see about the PS4 Pro versus a PC is, like I said, is cost. Not everybody wants to go and dump $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 into a PC that can play games at 4K. And I can understand that. I can understand someone who would see the appeal in paying $400 versus $4,000 to play a 4K game, even if it is just upscaled. NVIDIA does offer upscaling within their NVIDIA control panel. I'm not sure if AMD does. I'm sure they do. They offer some form of upscaling. But that's basically what the PS4 is going to be doing. But you're in for quite a bit of money if you want to purchase an NVIDIA card or an AMD card that's going to be capable of upscaling to 1440p or even 2160p and maintain a stable frame rate. Not to mention the cost of a processor that's going to be able to support higher shadow resolutions and textures and audio buffering, as well as being able to purchase a motherboard, RAM, a monitor that's going to support 4K, or even a nice 1080p monitor that'll, look decent at 4K when you upscale. You could go buy a $30 monitor and it'll look like garbage no matter what because it just doesn't have the pixel density. All in all, I'm not opposed to the idea of a PS4 Pro, but I think that they could have gone about it better. And I don't think that the PS4 Pro is supposed to be a quote-unquote PS5 as the Xbox Scorpio is the Xbox 5. The Xbox One S is clearly their next iteration of the Xbox One, but the Project Scorpio, I feel, is more or less the next generation Xbox, whereas the PS4 Pro is seen as the PS4.5. And I don't think that Sony is trying to directly compete with Microsoft in this market anymore. Microsoft's throwing punches, Sony's throwing punches, everybody's pissed off, everybody's fighting each other. But realistically, I think that it's just kind of a Pyrrhic victory where no one's actually going to come out ahead and everybody's just going to be upset in the end. So those are my opinions on this whole debacle that's going on. And, we can't really have absolutes until all the consoles are out and all the cards are out on the table. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now. This is purely my opinion. This is pure speculation about the Xbox Scorpio. There aren't any concrete stats on it. But as soon as something comes out, I'm sure that everyone will be updated on it. So thanks for listening. On an up note, Dead Rising, the original Dead Rising, came out on Steam today. So if you liked the original Dead Rising on the Xbox 360, I think it was on the Xbox 360. I can't remember. Go ahead and pick it up. They've done some great optimizations. It runs at an excellent frame rate. It's got pretty much all the options you could ask for in a rather old game. So I'll throw a link to it in the bottom there. And thanks for listening.